A business plan essentially should cover three aspects. First, what are you doing, which is about the concept, the idea, what is the need that you're addressing, etc. The what part. The second component that the business plan should cover is the how part. How are you going to implement or execute the what part of the concept? And the third part is the part about how are you going to make money from what you're going to do. Now, these are the three components of a business plan, but obviously there will be different sections in a business plan. So if you're making a pitch presentation to an investor or to an accelerator, you probably have a 10-12 slide deck. But those 10-12 slide decks should cover these essential ingredients. One of the most common mistakes that we've seen a lot of startups do, or a lot of entrepreneurs do when they're pitching their startup, is to get into the technical details or the nitty-gritties of the product or the concept, which is not the intention of a business plan. Of course, those components are important, but not in the context of a business plan. A business plan is to communicate that, hey, this is what I'm doing and this is exciting and it addresses a large market opportunity. Here's how I plan to do it, and I think there's a sensible plan that I've got in terms of how I'm going to implement it. And look, the business case around it makes sense as well, and this is how I'm going to make money within that entire thing. The areas that you should focus on obviously depend on what kind of businesses that you're in. For example, if you're an e-commerce company, detailing out or highlighting or spending enough time on saying, hey, look, this is the size of the e-commerce market, this is the number of people who are available online, etc., is not required. Why? Because a lot of people just get it and that data has already been available and well published. But say, for example, if you're a company who's in, say, in the knee replacement market, and if you're doing something in that, then helping the evaluator, whether it's an investor or whether it's an accelerator program or whoever else that you're pitching to, helping that person understand what is the size of the opportunity that you're going after, why that market makes sense, etc., would be a very important component to do. So highlighting the opportunity, but be conscious about what component of that opportunity need to detail out will depend in terms of how familiar you think your audience is with the size of the opportunity or the dynamics of that opportunity. The second component, which I think entrepreneurs need to spend a little more time thinking about and therefore also then communicating, is how are you going to address that opportunity in the immediate context of starting up. Now let me explain. Typically, when people say that the size of the opportunity according to the Gartner, according to Technopack, is $2 billion and $4 billion, that perhaps just indicates that the potential is very large. But it does not even tell anyone what you specifically are going to do within that market. From a startup's point of view, or for a startup, for an investor, or for the accelerator, it's not important to say that the market size is $2 billion or $4 billion. What's important is, how are you going to get your first 1,000 customers? How are you going to get your first 10,000 customers? What do you have your plan around? And that's the plan that you will need to outline to. You can set up the context by saying that, look, the opportunity is fairly large. There are X number of people in the target audience that we are looking at, and this is a kind of average revenue that we expect from per customer. These are number of times that each customer is likely to buy, and therefore the size of the market in the geography that we are addressing is this. According to various reports, these are the size of market size indicators that we've got. In that market, we hope to be a player of this much size. And say, for example, we hope to have 25,000 paying customers by, say, year 3. And therefore, to get to that 25,000 year number, in the next 1 or 2 quarters, we've got these targets. And these are the first, this is how we intend to get to our first 10,000 customers. That level of thought in terms of how you're going to get through that first hurdle gives the accelerators or the incubators and your investors the confidence that you seem to be thinking practically around it. Mind you, in most cases, if you have found an opportunity which is not really extremely unique, most people are likely to be fairly aware of the size of the opportunity and the potential, and that's the reason they've probably invited you to make that presentation in the first place. So if you have got an opportunity to present to an investor or to an incubator, focus on 3 things. One, again I'm repeating, but one, what is it that you're doing? That is, highlight the concept. Set up the need in terms of why are you doing it? Is there an opportunity that you're addressing, or the need, or is it a need that you're fulfilling? Second, spend a lot more time in detailing out the how part of it. This is how we intend to do what we set out to do. This is what our plan looks like. And the third, give them a rough flavor in terms of what you think is the business case around that concept, which is about how do you make money within that entire thing. Excel sheets are not important and should not be presented in the first presentation in any case. An Excel sheet is a backdoor activity or a back-end activity that allows you to think through what your business case is. What you should be communicating in the first presentation is the story around the numbers rather than the numbers itself. How you pitch your startup, or what tools you use to pitch your startup to a relevant audience, that could be investors or accelerators and incubators, depends a lot on the forum and the intent of that presentation. For example, if you happen to meet an investor or an accelerator partner at an industry event like a TIE or a NASSCOM event, all you want to do is leave an impression saying that, hey, look, I'm doing something exciting and maybe you would want to meet me again. And anything that can communicate to that person that, look, this is an interesting opportunity, addressing a large market, would be good enough. You probably will have about a minute or two to make that interaction over coffee or a drink, and that's the time you should that's what you should focus on, saying that I'm doing something interesting, it addresses a large opportunity. When you do get called in for a pitch presentation, typically you will have about 20 minutes in all, and typically in most of the accelerators or in the VC offices, they'll probably have a day on which 5 or 6 companies are called together in a period of 3 or 4 hours. So you have about 20 minutes. Remember, in that 20 minutes, you should use 1 minute to make an impression and the next 18-19 minutes in reinforcing the impression that you have created. If you are not able to get their attention in the first 2 or 3 minutes, the rest of the detailing will necessarily not matter. And think about it. In the first opening sentence, you need to help that or wow that audience with saying that, look, this is something interesting in terms of it addresses a large market opportunity or it addresses a pressing need. The size of the opportunity is large. The business case can be interesting, and this team knows what they're talking about. When all these components come in together through the first 3 or 4 opening sentences, the audience is interested in listening to the rest of that story. Typically, never have more than about 8 or 10 slides in a presentation. Any detailing that is required to be given will be asked for, and you could give that later on. The first set of interactions, whether it's about meeting a person in a conference or whether it's about meeting a person in their office, is just to help them realize that what you're doing is exciting and make them interested in following up with you through follow-up meetings or discussions that would follow. One of the things that you should, or a few things that you should avoid while making a pitch presentation certainly are statements that are 30,000 feet in the air without any basis, on the ground. So, for example, investors as well as the accelerators and incubators like people with a large vision. They like people with who have large aspirations. But these people should have a practical view about how the story is going to start. This is about saying, hey, look, I really want to be one of the largest companies in XYZ domain in the world, but in the next 6 to 8 quarters, here's what my plan is. I really want to build my foundation doing that. I think that practicality of approach with a largeness of vision is what helps people do that. If either of the two are missing, it doesn't make sense.